All right, everyone. Jeremy Knauff here with another episode of the Public Relations Declassified live stream. And we're going to talk about a topic that I think goes underemphasized far too often, and that is how to control the search results for your own name. Now, this is something that is very important because it determines the first impression that people have of you, right? What do they see when they search for your name? So if somebody searches for your name, the things that come up are going to determine how prospects see you, right? It's going to determine whether or not they're likely to choose you as a provider, a vendor, whatever it is you do, right? Whether they're willing to choose to work with you based on what they see. When it comes to clients, it also has an impact in the likelihood that they'll continue to work with you. And when it comes to journalists, it determines whether or not they're going to feature you in an article or in a TV segment or a stage opportunity, whatever the PR opportunity is that we're talking about. It's going to determine the likelihood of you getting that feature, right? Because they want to know that you are legitimate, that you are an expert, that you are authoritative. So this has a huge impact on you and your brand and your opportunities. So we have to take control of the search results. We can't just sit there and kind of hope for the best, hope that the right things are going to pop up. We have to take action to ensure that what we want to show up first shows up to create that authoritative image. So there's a few things that go into this, and we're going to unpack each of these for a little bit here. And the first is to optimize your personal brand website. Now, this is the lowest hanging fruit in this equation. It's really easy to get a website set up. And ideally, what you want to do is you want it set up with your personal name, first name, last name.com. But if that's not available, then you want to find your first name and last name with some other non-traditional TLD, right? .me, .guru, .whatever, right? And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of TLDs available. Ideally, you want to go with the .com, but if your name in the .com is not available, then you go with one of these non-traditional TLDs. Having your full name as the domain plays a big role in where it ranks in the search results. So you want that to be ideally the first listing in the search results because you have full control over it. You can decide exactly what goes on there, all of your content, all of your images, your videos, everything that you want to put up there, you have full control over, which you will not have when it comes to some of the other things that we can put out there in the search results. It's not a matter of just putting a website up, though. There are some things we have to do. So your homepage should be fairly robust. There should be a good amount of content on there. And when I say content, I mean in the form of texts. There should be, information about you, information about what you do, how you do it, why you're unique. You should talk about some of your clients, some of the case studies, some of the things you've achieved for people. You also want to put reviews up there. And if you really want to kind of go over the top, you should get review testimonials, right? So videos of these testimonials. If you look at our Spartan Media website, that's a great example of these video testimonials where we've got people talking about their experience in having worked with us, right? This is something that conveys a lot of authority. It conveys a lot of trust. So these are the kind of things you want to have on your website, on your personal brand website. Now, I always like to build our websites in WordPress because it's very scalable. It gives you a lot of options. It's open source, so you can create a plugin that will do damn near any kind of special functionality that you may need. So this is a really good platform, and plus it's free. You'll just have to buy a theme or have a developer build you a theme that matches your brand. But it's really cost effective, but it gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility in what you can do with it. Now you also want to have, I mentioned images on your homepage, on your website. You want some on the homepage, but you also want higher res images as well. So, throughout the website, you'll have some of the smaller images that are whatever the appropriate size is for the various screen resolutions. But you also want to have a page where all of your media lives. And then you can have the high res photos there as well. And those higher res photos tend to perform better in Google image search. And also, if somebody's searching for your name, a lot of times you'll get that little image carousel. You guys have probably all seen it, where, in the search results, it will then say images, and then it will have a series of images there in that little section. The higher res they are, the better that they tend to rank in Google search. So we definitely want to have both the normal sized, web sized images throughout the site, but we also want to have the higher res images, which increases the likelihood that they end up in Google search and then that becoming a carousel within the search results for your name. We also want to do videos. Now, when I do videos for this purpose, I like to host them on YouTube because, let's be honest, Google loves to favor their own properties. So if you've got a good amount of videos out there, they've got some traffic, Google can see that people find the content useful and engaging, right? You're getting views, people are engaging with it, whether it's leaving comments, liking the video, sharing the video, whatever. All of these are signals to Google that this is good content. So they then tend to show those not only in YouTube, but also in Google's search results. So if you do that, what tends to happen is then you'll also get a carousel for videos. And usually it'll be stacked, 3 to 5 deep, and then it'll give you an option to click on that to then go over to all the search results for videos for your name. But we're going to talk more about optimizing the YouTube videos themselves, but we definitely want to have these videos on the website, but embedded from YouTube. And that's going to give you kind of the best of both worlds. And then we want to implement something called schema. Now, if you're not a web development nerd and you've never heard of this before, it's essentially code that goes on the back end of the website. Humans never see it, but it basically connects the dots on entities, right? It helps the search engine crawlers, it helps the AI tools understand the relationship of the various elements of your website. So you might have an entity for a company, you might have an entity for a person. There's entities for a lot of other things as well. There's entities for images, there's entities for all kinds of different things. And that can provide more context to the search engine bots as well as the AI bots. So if you implement that schema, and we talked earlier about your website should be on WordPress, there's plugins for WordPress that enable you to put the schema together, put it where it belongs without having to get into the code and understand the JSON markup language and all of that. So it's really simple. In fact, I know I've talked about this in the private Spartan community at least once. So if you are a member of our private community, go check that out. Go look inside the portal and you should find that pretty easily. That was probably a few months ago we did that one. But we walked through the whole process of setting up schema. In my opinion, it's pretty simple. Anybody can do it. It's got, this pretty simple user interface within the plugin on WordPress's backend. So definitely put that in place. That will help the bots understand the entities in this relationship a lot better. And that will help you to control what shows up in the search results. Now let's talk about optimizing the images themselves. And this is whether they're on your website or they're on some other website. The first thing we want to do is set up the image names with your name as the file name, right? And there may be some additional context. So let's say you speak at a particular event, right? A lot of you guys know I'm a member of Family Mastermind. So I might do Jeremy Knauff, Family Mastermind 2025.jpg, right? And so that's an image of me speaking on stage at Family Mastermind. And that file name gives context to the search engine that this image should probably rank for my name. Alt text is another thing that goes into the equation here. And that's basically code behind the scenes in the HTML code that tells screen readers, and that's for, like, let's say somebody's visually impaired, that helps them to understand what the image is about because they can't see it very well or at all. So alt tags play a role in search as well. Not as much as it used to, right? A long time ago, it played a huge role, but it does still play some degree of role. So you want to have your alt tags in your images as well. Title tags too. Now, alt tags technically is supposed to describe the image. I always just optimize it more from a search perspective than really trying to describe the image. That's not the correct way to do it from a standards perspective, but I don't really care about that personally. I'm doing it from the perspective of trying to get the images to rank for my name. So I'm going to set my alt tags up that way. When it comes to the title tags, it should be a title of kind of what the image is about, not necessarily describing the image. So I always just put the same thing in the alt tag and the title tag. And then we've got schema. So I mentioned schema earlier. You can have schema specifically on images, and that will give the bots more context as to what that particular image is about. So there's a lot of stuff you can put in there. If you go into some of the plugins, they'll give you the options. All you have to do is put them into fields. You're not going to have to mess with the code, but that's a factor there as well. And then, like I said before, size plays a role. The higher res an image is, the more likely that it is to actually end up in the search results. Now, I mentioned that you're going to want to host these on your website, but you can also host them in other places as well. So I'll put images up on my IMDb listing, for example. Now, when I upload it to IMDb, they're generally not going to use my image name. They're going to change it to their own name, and there's reasons for this. If everyone had the ability to upload images under whatever name they wanted to, potentially it would overwrite other images because they're already named the same. So they basically create kind of a random string of characters and numbers and whatever, and that's what the image name becomes on their site. But you can still set up, alt tags and title tags and stuff like that on a lot of these websites for these images. And typically, if you're putting it up on a website, like we talked about IMDb just a second ago, it's going to be hosted on the Jeremy Knauff page on IMDb. So there's some inferred context there anyway. There's also photo sharing sites you can use. I'm drawing a blank on what some of them were. I know Google Photos was one, and something with a P. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But there's a lot of places you can put these images, and they then tend to show up in the search results as well. And then when it comes to optimizing the videos, a lot of the same principles apply here. So I like to upload at least 1920 by 1080. That's standard HD. Pretty soon 4K will be considered standard HD, but for now, 1920 by 1080 is standard HD. Beyond that, you want to have your title set up in a way that provides context, but it also has your name in it, if it's relevant for that, right? So, for example, if you look at my YouTube, in a lot of my videos, the title might say, Jeremy Knauff explains blah blah blah, something like that. So you could do things like that, or you might say, your name, testimonials for your name, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can play with the title to get that to rank for your name. The description is very important as well. Now, for a period of time, I was just uploading everything to YouTube and not doing shit. Like, I would put a title up there. I wouldn't bother with the description or anything like that. I would just kind of let YouTube figure it out and show the video to whoever it was going to show it to. Nowadays, I make sure to put a very robust description in there. If you look at some of the videos from the Public Relations Declassified live stream, you'll see we've got key takeaways. We've got an outline of that segment and what we covered in there. And then we've got any resources or information that we talked about in that episode will also be linked within the description. And then we'll close it out with Jeremy's PR PSA, right? So it's a very robust description. It's got a lot of information in there that helps it to rank, and it helps it to get YouTube to show it to more of the right people. So these are all things that you want to do. You also want to put tags in. So when you're uploading a video, you're going to have to open up some of the extra tabs when you're uploading it. There's a couple of sections for information that you'll have to hit that little button. It's like a little down pointing arrow. If you hit that, it will open up that section, and then you can put in the additional information. Tags is one of the fields that is inside that closed box. So you want to put in, think of these kind of like keywords. So you absolutely should put your name in there as one of the tags, but any other thing that you're talking about within this video that is a short, punchy kind of keyword that will give some context, put those in there as well. And then you want to have a really good thumbnail, something that's engaging, something that's well designed, right? Don't make it too busy. Don't have it be a wall of text. Take a look at what it's going to look like on a mobile device too, because first of all, the screen's smaller, so a lot of the text may not be legible, but then also some of it may get cut off. There's the little thing at the bottom right corner that shows like how long the video is and a couple of things like that. So you want to make sure that critical information is not cut off by any of the user interface elements. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build and optimize our social media profiles. So we want to first of all have a profile on every major platform. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, YouTube, maybe Threads, maybe not. I don't know. That's a personal choice. Threads doesn't really have a ton of activity. So if you want to do that one, go for it. But all the majors you absolutely want to have a profile on. And because each of these platforms is considered an authoritative website in Google's eyes from an SEO perspective, your profiles will tend to rank fairly well for your name. Now, we want to have a good, high quality headshot, and we want that to be the same headshot across all platforms. We want to have a good, high quality cover photo that's branded to our brand. And you're going to have to change that cover photo slightly for each of your platforms, right? So it's a different size for Facebook than it is for Instagram, than it is for LinkedIn, than it is for X. So you're going to have to adjust that. Now, I did talk about Spartan Community earlier. If you're a member of Spartan Community, we've actually got Photoshop documents that have the exact layout, and then it's got guides that show you exactly where things crop off at different between desktop and mobile. So it makes it really easy to put these cover photos together for each platform pretty quickly. And then you want to have a bio. So your bio should have kind of a value statement, right? What do you do? Who do you do it for? Why do you do it? Nice and punchy. Most of the bios are going to be relatively short, especially on X. TikTok is a pretty short bio as well. I think TikTok is the shortest one. But you want to have your name. You don't necessarily need your name in the bio, but you want all of the information about what you do and who you are and why you do it and all of that. But it needs to convey the value, not just what you do, right? So in my case, my bio says, I get you featured in the media so you can become a recognized authority in your industry, attract more opportunities, and earn more money. It clearly conveys exactly what I do, who I do it for, and what the impact is. So approach your bio from that perspective. And then you want to include links to any websites where it's applicable. So most social media platforms today have the ability to link to one or more websites. So if you have that option in each platform, you should use it to the max. So you'll probably want to put your company's website. You'll want to put your personal brand website if you have the option to put more than one link. Don't go overboard, right? We don't want to have links to every single thing that you have any affiliation with. But at the bare minimum, your company website and your personal brand website, if you have the ability to put at least 2 links in there. If you can only do one, then you generally want to make that your company website. But depending on what your model looks like, you may just link straight to your personal brand website. It just depends on how you've structured your business, right? Some people may just work straight from their name.com and not have a separate company website. So if that's the case, then that's a no-brainer, just straight to your personal brand website. All right, the next thing we want to do with the social media profiles is regularly post good content, right? The kind of content that's going to bring value to people. And that then leads to engagement. And between the content and the engagement, that then determines the authoritativeness of your social media profiles. Now, the content itself, don't look at this like I've seen a lot of people approach it from the perspective of, oh, well, I'll just get this social media platform or social media scheduling program, and I'll just have everything go out all the time, just constantly posting, and they're just posting like links to articles or links to videos or whatever. That's not a good approach. You can certainly post links to articles and links to videos, but you need to have a good mix of content. So you want to have, regular text posts. You may want to natively post videos. You may want to link to YouTube videos, but you want to have a good mix. But it's not just about the content. It's also about the engagement. So if your content is not getting engagement, if people aren't liking it, commenting on it, sharing it, then your content's probably not that good, and you need to go back and look at how you're creating that content. And the way I like to frame this is I want someone to be able to take whatever knowledge I'm sharing in that content and do something with that in a way that benefits them, whether they ever buy anything from us or not. And when you frame it from that perspective, your content becomes infinitely more valuable than 99% of the slop that's out there. And as a result of that, it tends to get a lot more engagement. And a more engaged profile also tends to rank higher in the search results. So this is all not just part of the controlling the search results, but this is also a big part of building a personal brand as well. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure that you're getting all the basics right, but also creating tons of great content and engaging with your audience. And when I say engaging with your audience, I don't just mean the people who are commenting on your posts, but I also mean go out there and engage with other people. That then helps them to come and see your profile, right? Your stuff's going to start showing up in their feed more often, or they might see your comment and then go over to your profile and now they're engaging. So if you treat it like it's a relationship, you're going to get a lot more impact out of it. And then we want to leverage guest posting wherever we can. So every industry has tons and tons of blogs that are publishing content about the industry. And they tend to have some degree of authority status, right? They rank well in search. People cite them often. They've got a lot of different authors. This is a great opportunity to reach out to whoever runs that particular blog and pitch them on you contributing an article or a series of articles to share your knowledge and insight with their audience. Now, first of all, these articles tend to rank pretty well, but then beyond that, the author page tends to rank even better. So most of these blogs are going to be built on WordPress, and the way that it's structured just purely out of the box is already fairly well optimized. And so if you get a few articles under your belt at this publication, there's a good chance that that author page then starts to rank. And the author page, basically it's got, your headshot, your bio, maybe a link to your website or links to several of your websites. And then it will have little excerpts of each of your articles at that particular blog. So this is a great way to create another asset in the search results that not only takes a spot in the search results, but also demonstrates your expertise. So this is an incredibly powerful strategy. And then sometimes even within those articles, you can link to certain things. You may link to, maybe there's a reason to link to one of your social media profiles or link to a particular post you made or an article you published somewhere else. This just kind of builds that whole ecosystem to drive all of these things, these positive things about you up in the search results and create a more authoritative online presence. And speaking of links, we then want to build links to all of our digital assets. So our images, our videos, our social media profiles, our articles and our author pages, all of these things. So social media is the lowest hanging fruit, right? You can go online, you can go onto your profile and post a link to anything. Minimal impact on search, but if it's done right, it can drive traffic. And that's a signal to the analytics, right? Like Google Analytics, for example. It takes user activity as a ranking signal. So if a lot of people are going to a piece of content that you've shared, following a link to it, and they're engaging on it, they're active, they're staying there for a while, that tells Google that this is an important piece of content that a lot of people find value in, and thus it tends to rank it more highly. And then from within the articles, you can link to some of your other guest posts. You can link to press releases. You can even link to media features, right? Maybe you've been featured in US News or Fortune or Entrepreneur Magazine. Link to those media features, and they will then rank higher than they currently do. And if you're more on the technical side and you kind of understand how a lot of different software works, you could even play around with black hat SEO and leverage some of the link building tools to build massive volumes of links. And to do black hat, you actually have to do massive volumes, right? When we're talking about, links from a legitimate article, it's not going to take as many links to move the needle. When we're talking about black hat, we're using garbage links, right? Comment spam, forum spam, things like that. When you leverage black hat, you're going to have to do this at scale. And when I say at scale, I'll give you an example here. We were working on moving the rankings around on a few different things for a reputation management project that we were working on. And within there, we did a pretty robust link building campaign where over the span of about 5 days, we built like 250,000 links, right? So we're talking about a shitload of links, but it had a tremendous impact. It definitely controlled what ranked and where. You just have to be pretty technical because a lot of these black hat tools, they don't have a simple interface, right? It's not easy to use. You have to really understand the interface and you have to understand a lot of the technical stuff behind the scenes. So for most of you, the black hat side of link building is probably not going to be a great path. The learning curve is pretty steep, but if you have that capability or you want to learn that capability, it can be a valuable tool to have in your toolbox. You can definitely use that to move the ranking around quite a bit. And once you understand it, it doesn't take a ton of effort. So that's going to lead us into Jeremy's PR PSA for today, which is the first impression you make often starts long before you first talk to someone. It starts when they first search for your name online. Now, we all know that we live in this digital first world. When we meet somebody, first thing that they're going to do is they're going to go back to their computer and they're going to look you up online. They're going to see what they see about you. They're going to find out all of the information they can find on you. And if there's a whole bunch of positive stuff in the search results on that first page, and especially if you go back beyond the first page, that's going to create a very powerful impression. On the other hand, if they don't find anything positive or they find a bunch of negative stuff, that's going to hurt you. So you could have made a killer first impression at some event, some networking thing, you spoke at an event somewhere maybe. If they then go look you up online and what they find online doesn't match up with the impression they had initially, that's going to hurt you. Or let's say they hear about you somewhere. Maybe you're on a podcast. Maybe they saw you in an article. Maybe they just found your company via a Google search. If they then go look you up and they don't find something that gives them a lot of authority and a lot of trust signals, then it's going to hurt your impact. It's going to hurt your opportunities and it's going to limit what you can actually do. So if you can control the search results, you can create a more authoritative online presence, and that helps you to convert clients more easily. It helps you get featured in the media more easily, and it really streamlines everything you're doing in your business. So this is something that all of us need to do in today's digital first world. And if you follow what we talked about here today, it's definitely going to have a profound positive impact for you. Now, before we wrap up here today, I do want to give you all a heads up. We had our last Dominate Entrepreneurial Summit back in October. We are now putting the finishing touches on the 2026 Dominate Entrepreneurial Summit, which will be held sometime in Q2. I don't have an exact date yet. We're still finalizing details, but we are going to be putting out an open call for speakers. We've got a few slots left for speakers. And of course, we're going to be looking for tons of great attendees who want to learn and connect with some awesome people. So the call for speakers is going to be coming out shortly, probably within the next few days. And then from there, once we've got everything finalized, all of our speakers ironed out, then we're going to start opening it up for registration. Pricing, I think we're probably going to be $97 per attendee. And there is both an in-person, which will be in Clearwater, Florida, as well as a virtual option to attend. The virtual option is cheaper. I think we had that set at $47 last year. We'll probably keep the same prices for both the in-person and virtual this year, but $97 for in-person attendees, and obviously space is limited for that, and then $47 for virtual attendees. So you'll want to keep an eye out for that. The call for speakers will be coming out in the next few days. And then once we've ironed out the last few remaining speakers, we're going to open it up for registration. So keep your eyes out for that, and I'll have more information for you soon. And that's going to be a wrap for today, guys. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everyone.